Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 26 of Quattroporte. And first of all, if you've actually clicked on this episode, well done, because it isn't exactly the most exciting of thumbnails for most people. The Citröen Xantia. Not exactly a super saloon. In fact, it's only barely a sports saloon. Technically, it's not even that. It's just a regular saloon that happens to have a decent engine put into it. And right from the outset, this series is only going to be for a very, very specific type of person. This is not a saloon which is going to appeal to a wide range of people. And I'm not going to say that this car is capable of things that it's not. Of course not. But I'm going to be honest about the car, and I believe it does deserve a place in this series. Now, you may have noticed, of course, that there was no special projects earlier today, just on a side note. I'd like to apologise for that. That was due to unforeseen circumstances. I'm not going to be able to do that today now, but I'm going to release that tomorrow instead, so you guys will still be getting that special projects episode. But for now, what does this car have to offer? In my history of playing Gran Turismo, I've never seen anyone use this car. I've never heard anyone talk about using this car. I've never seen anyone or heard of anyone who, in real life, even ever talks about the Citröen Xantia, let alone on the game. So, why am I featuring it? Well, for a very simple reason. This car is about as much of a sleeper as you can get. It's a car which people could not care less about. It's not exactly a looker, it looks kind of like a doorstop. It's got a decent sized engine, but not a massive amount of power compared to many others. And at the end of the day, like many semi-executive saloons with bigger powerful engines, it's not really designed to cope with that kind of power. So even though it has the power, the performance that it produces from it still isn't all that amazing. However, the car has one particular advantage, and that is the way people view it. This is a car which people will never find threatening. People don't care about this car, people won't be worried by this car, and they will never be expecting you to beat them in this car. And as such, if you enter a lobby with this model at whatever PP level that you happen to use it on, if you do choose to use it, you will be the least noticed person in the room. You will be the person in the race who nobody is worrying about. And although that may seem to be a very slight advantage to have, that's actually a massive advantage, because you can shock everyone, you can beat potentially everyone else in the room under the right circumstances. Now, in order to win, they don't need to be stupid drivers or in rubbish cars. This car is capable of winning races for sure. But it's definitely not the obvious choice of sports saloon. Now, this is for sure a lower end sports saloon. However, it can take on vehicles such as the Vectra, some of the lower Mazda 6s, and vehicles like that, more of the kind of mainstream sports saloons which are only barely such. They have a reasonably good amount of power, but they're not really, as I said, designed to cope with it. They don't have fancy spoilers or amazing looks. They're just normal cars with a bit of extra power, basically. And that is the case with this model. It's got a 3 litre, interestingly enough, naturally aspirated engine, even when fully tuned, which is kind of a shame, because if we could fit it with a turbo, it could potentially actually be a fantastic sleeper car, not just an interesting sleeper car. Now, despite being naturally aspirated, it does put out a pretty decent 362 horsepower, which is pretty surprising for an engine which isn't designed to put out that kind of power. It also puts out 311 pound-feet of torque. It only weighs 1,226 kilos, which isn't amazing, but it's not bad either, considering the car is reasonably well equipped. It produces a kind of uninspiring 295 horsepower per tonne, but it doesn't have that much to work with, so what do you expect? And as far as PP, it sits at 483, which is about right. I wouldn't recommend racing it that high. I'd say probably try it around, say, 425, maybe 450, possibly 475. Overall though, I'd say probably use this for 450 pp if you're going to use it at all. And the 450 pp category is a surprisingly competitive one. So what does this car have to offer at that level, but also by extension when fully tuned? Well, the main things that it has to offer are its understated status, which it definitely has, and the other thing is the handling. It actually does handle very well. It's a front-wheel drive car, and although, as I said, it's not designed to be a performance model, front-wheel drive cars do have a natural level of drivability, chuckability and control, which many rear-wheel drive equivalents have to be tuned further in order to achieve. And this car has that. The handling is pretty good. It's not amazing, of course, but it's pretty good. The fact that it's a front-wheel drive actually suits the spec of the car. It's not going to be a drift machine or a drag machine or even a rally machine. But as I said, for that very small select group of people who perhaps like appearing to be the underdog, to shock people, or using sleeper cars, or using vehicles which present you with a bit more of a challenge, then this is definitely a car that you would want to check out. But of course, overall, this isn't going to appeal to everyone. I know that it's not going to, but cars like this sometimes do deserve a shot, and I personally feel this is one of those cars that does deserve, for at least some people, to recognise what it can be good for. So that's it for this episode. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.